Welcome back, everybody. I'll have you know that there are a lot of things one can say about the cancel me baby and talk to me Taylor. But one thing that they can't say about me, and a position I will never catch myself in, is being a hypocrite. So before we expand on that, we are nearing the end of this wretched year. What a time we are in. What a pickle that we are in. And I'm saying this because this may or may not be my last episode of the year. Like I just may Irish exit out of this bitch because I just really don't even know. So with that being said, but I may just pop in like Chris Kringle himself in your stocking and pop up for another episode to wrap things up. But I actually think that this is a good way to wrap up the year and kind of a good mindset going into the fresh start for the love of God. Hopefully, that will be the new year. And really, kind of oddly enough, captures what I've been about, a through line of my work, a through line of this show, the name of the show, what keeps you all coming back for Mo, and a gift that keeps on giving. So now that I've set the table, with that being said, there is a really fascinating, a sad, and a chaotic, crazy phenomenon going on right now in the unfolding Israel Hamas war conversation and debate and the culture war of it all. That's happening and unraveling as it pertains to what do you know, what do you have it, but free speech. You have events like Ivy League schools and their presidents' sad, embarrassing little testimony in Congress. You have people like Dave Portnoy stepping in to the chat. You have certain organizations on college campuses being suspended. So, like I said, it's this crazy phenomenon. It's all a hot mess. But given that I've been so adamant, right, in my work, whether it be my op-eds, this show, again, the name of this show, my Playboy feature, I've always been about don't silence me, don't censor me, empowering you guys to all do the same as well, especially in a time that everything is so psychotic and uptight. And so, really advocating again for free speech and stop canceling left, right, and sideways. So now we're seeing all of this kind of unfold with, again, like even Penn's president stepping down, and people may be wondering, and I really wanted to dive into this today and unpack it with you because you guys understandably may be wondering, wait, Taylor, for somebody who's so against censoring and cancel culture, are these instances okay? Again, is like Liz McGill of UPenn, who doesn't seem to know her words today or any other day. Like, I don't know how the hell this lady got into this position, but is her resigning not cancel culture? Like, what's the deal? Is this all cancel culture or not? I thought that you were against it. Well, class, there is no DEI today. No, ma'am, no, sir, no theys, thems. All right, because I'm going to break it down and tell you where I stand. And I think, honestly, where a lot of common sense thinking folks stand, folk X, if you will. I got to say that and cover my bases because, God forbid, I can't be accused of abuse and harmful conduct. But don't worry, my tracks are covered. My basis is covered if I call for the genocide of an entire group. So the sense is making sense. Am I right? Okay. So first things first, again, why I think what we're seeing does not constitute as the madness and the ridiculousness of what we've seen in cancel culture thus far, and why, again, common sense thinking, I don't see this in that group. And I know off the bat, you may be thinking, Taylor, you're hiding the Jufro today. Like you have the girls, but it's not quite the Jufro. Like, of course, you have a personal stake in this, right? I'm just going to call it the elephant in the room right away. That's what we do. Like, I ain't shy. I ain't hiding it. You may think, okay, you have a personal stake in this. I talked about this in my last solo app. So what? Now that it's personal to you and you have a personal stake in it and it's against you, suddenly, like now this person should resign, this, that. Hush, hush, my darling. We're getting there. Okay. Again, I'm going to differentiate the two. All right. for everybody today. I don't think you guys all need to know. I think you guys already know this because like you're up with the times, but just in case anybody, again, like these presidents, these so-called Ivy League presidents who have been like comatose, I guess, like Austin Powers for the last 30 years and like a freezer, in case they need a little brushing up, this is where I stand and what I think makes sense. And also in the end, where I think that we need to go with all of this, because obviously this shit, like the hoes have been exposed, right? And how we can get back on the right track. So the first things first is the utter hypocrisy and the double standard of the situation. So in sum, let's review some of the things that people have gotten canceled for. And when I say canceled, I mean, you all know the jig and the song and the dance. Like the jig is up, people losing. Like this, again, isn't an actor saying something like dumb shit and losing their WME rep, their Hallmark movie contract, all this, okay? This is some serious shit we're talking about. But alas, the things that people have been canceled for, i.e., losing their business, losing their jobs, public smearing, their reputations being destroyed, like the Burn Book 2.0. Again, this is also a call to Tina Fey in this Mean Girls revival no one asked for, but a lot, like something that should be canceled and stopped in its tracks before it even starts, okay? But we have things like singing along the lyrics, Gina Rodriguez, right? We have unearthed tweets. We have things like facts about science, comedy. We have iconic movies, TV shows, episodes, things being censored, taken out, changed on both sides of the aisle. We have censoring of iconic books, right? That may be not so much up and hip with the times and culturally insensitive. So we have things like that. And I'm just going to be blunt here. Stupid shit that did not, the dumbest shit, sometimes harmless, sometimes all in good fun, that did not warrant cancellation. And these people were smeared from here to the Mississippi, like on billboards, in outer space, everywhere that you can think of. So again, just giving you the context and the background of what we've been dealing with for the last like 3 or plus years, okay? And now when it comes to America's higher education, my favorite topic, we have, no guys, I shit you not, this is real. This is not fake news, okay? So in 2015, again, this is the crowd that we're dealing with, okay? We had a small liberal arts college, I believe Lena Dunham. Okay, that should not be a hashtag. That's actually a little bit of a tongue twister. But her college in Ohio called Oberlin, okay? Get a load of this. In 2015, the students were outraged. They were outraged, okay, over food that was served and that was disrespectful, that was harmful, and that was culturally insensitive, i.e., Chinese chicken dishes that were steamed and not fried, i.e., the Vietnamese dish banh mi being served on a ciabatta roll and not the traditional French baguette. I'm not fucking kidding. I am not fucking kidding. So this deserves, okay, this deserves uproar and reckoning, righting the wrongs, okay? But when these college presidents are testifying about whether calling for genocide of Jews is against school conduct and constitutes for harassment, they can't seem to decide. God forbid if I get a French baguette today, okay, if I get this carb and not that other carb, that is a violent threat to my existence, okay? But calling for the genocide of people, we just can't quite sure. We're gonna need to see the proof in the pudding. We're gonna need to see some genocide on campus before we make a call about this, What? Somebody, my brain is actually exploding. Somebody make it make sense. So specifically, let's talk about the institution of Harvard Law, where Elle Woods went in her blondness to pave the way and did not do all of that work, okay, and break those boundaries just for this fuckery. Okay, so at Harvard specifically, because again, I know people could say, oh, you're generalizing this. No, these are the folks These are the folks indeed. So again, if you serve rice instead of French fries, you will be hearing from me. Okay. If you call somebody chubby at Harvard, you will be hearing from them. You will be expelled immediately. But if you call for the genocide of Jews, you know what? Today is your lucky day. So if you are playing catch up, indeed, this is what all this is about. Like I said, the testimony of the presidents at MIT, at Penn, and at Harvard, and the cats got their tongue. Again, when asked if calling for genocide of Jews, which we have seen time and time again, which is like a bedtime story for the Hamas-loving students on campuses around the world, apparently, for the social justice warriors of our time. Like, am I right? Like, they have their priorities straight. Social justice indeed, like terrorists for the win. And they can't seem, they're so smug about it. It's absolutely disgusting. And they can't seem, again, to say this is against our conduct. This constitutes as harassment. Nope. Only when they say it actually leads to conduct. Again, so am I going to have to see this like happening in real life on our, okay, so we're going to dive into that again, and not to get into the weeds of that, but like, where do you draw the line? When does it go too far of saying things in actual action, right? But again, the fact that these idiots can't rub two brain cells together to figure this out, again, in the context of cancel culture, it's not supposed to make any sense. It's just not, I'm not gonna even get mad, right? I'm not gonna get even madder. You've seen me be sad. You've seen me bad. And this obviously is vulnerable and personal to me because obviously, like I said, I have a personal stake in it, but I'm just gonna leave it. It's so nonsensical. You can't even reason with these lunatics, right? So I'm just gonna let it sit there. I'm not even gonna get mad because it is that insane. So anyway, let's dive into Harvard's, okay? The same people, and by the way, they are, we're gonna get to this too, who doesn't back down and who unequivocally stands by their people, you know, in the hot seat. And who do we have here rising to the top? But Dr. Gay, the president of Harvard, and they are unequivocally standing by her, someone who couldn't condemn calling for the genocide of Jews in this moment. But this is the same school who had a 2022 in September of last year, okay, training, okay, about how these following categories constitute, I'm not kidding, as abuse and as harmful conduct and violence. I swear to God, they had to go on some sort of retreat, okay, in the Bermuda Triangle to even come up with these words, because I don't even know what this shit is, okay? You have sizeism, fat phobia, ableism, obviously misgendering someone, like God forbid if you say the wrong pronoun, that's abusive, but not calling for the death of someone outwardly and proudly. Strange how that works. And here is my favorite, cis heterosexism. Okay. So again, all of these things are abusive. You will be punished, everybody, if you so much say that, you know, Dolly over there is looking a little doughy today because that's sizeism. That could be cis heterosism because you assume Dolly is a girl. Like, it's all nonsense is my point. It's all goddamn nonsense. Okay. So again, it is the biggest double standard. Yet, what do you have it? When it comes to the Jews, it's all fair game. I can't quite decide. But if I offend a burrito today, I'm getting expelled. And everybody's going to know about it. It will be in the Harvard student body newsletter. Okay. And everyone here will hear about it. Like, that to me is the biggest point of this entire episode. Like, we've been dealing with this shit for years. And it is the biggest hypocrisy and double standard that these people are going to make such a point about the dumbest shit. Sorry. People can say, oh, Taylor, you're being insensitive because you think cis heterosexism, blah, 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 and fat phobia isn't important. Da, da, da. I'm sorry. Let's get our priorities right here and the moral compass of yours that Jack Sparrow took a shit on in Amber Heard's bed and she testified about it. Okay. Again, the hypocrisy is out of control. Like, get your fucking priorities straight. So talk about getting, this is a little sidebar about the hypocrisy, okay, is the Me Too moment of it all. So in the heat and in the height of all this, we have Time's brand new influential person of the year, but Taylor Swift, with Selena Gomez, who's one of the most followed people, influential people on Instagram. Okay. And Swifties, gird your loins, because I'm about to go there and I don't give a fuck. Sorry. Your girl here, she needs some soul searching to do. Okay. And I'm not just talking about in her middle school diary of who broke up with her that day. Okay. So these two were spotted at a pro-Gaza benefit comedy special in New York City, like photographed and the whole thing. And again, in the essence of what I'm about, free expression, free speech, fine. If you want to go do that, by all means, be my guest. I'm not going to stop you. I will have you know that it was for an organization that is openly anti-Semitic. Like, even in its newsletters, talk about newsletters, again, no mention of Hamas. Everything's Israel's fault, despite the fact that, again, Hamas is a vicious, completely radical terrorist group hiding behind its own citizens, relishing in the deaths, thousands of deaths in their civilians, again, hiding in sophisticated tunnels, infiltrated in, under, and around their hospitals, shelters, public living, but, you know, neither here nor there, I guess. So this is an organization that ignores all of that, solely blames Israel. So this is what we're dealing with, right? But let's take it a step further. Who remembers when Taylor Swift, you all forgot? Do you remember get a little fuzzy? You remember got a little fuzzy there? You had one too many, like, you know, spiked eggnogs already this Christmas? Because let me have you remember, let me remind you. In 2017, Time Magazine had a whole stink naming Taylor Swift a silence breaker before, like a renegade ahead of the Me Too movement, okay? Somebody who inspired women to speak out about harassment. Why is this? Because in 2013, Taylor Swift proudly testified, okay? And I'm not diminishing, I'm not being an asshole here. I'm not diminishing her story. Her story is her story. But again, let's get our priorities straight here, right? And look at things in context. Her story is her story, and it's all subjective. And I'm not saying what happened to her was okay. But she testified about a DJ at the time in 2013 inappropriately grabbing her butt without consent while they were taking a photo. And she was named, like I said, a silence breaker who paved the way for the entire Me Too movement. So understandably, it has someone like me thinking, interesting. So you have Taylor Swift, somebody who allegedly paved the way for Me Too, who went in a public trial about somebody inappropriately grabbing her butt. But again, she seems to be at a loss for words, and she's someone with a lot to say, a lot to write, a lot to sing about. But again, she's a cat lady whose cat seems to they got her tongue, because she seems to be unable to speak to or empathize or unequivocally condemn the violent, vicious mass gang rape that we know now. Okay, it's out in the open and out in the light, no matter the deniers out there. Weird how that works again. Who Hamas terrorists who went into Israel, as we know, on October 7th, and now it's out there. Stories of innocent civilians and women being gang raped by 8, 9 men. Their limbs being completely mutilated and disfigured. Or how about this one, Taylor Swift? The fact that there are stories of Hamas terrorists raping women out in the open, 8, 9 of them, and putting bullets in their heads while still inside them. So interesting. So a DJ grabbing your butt in 2013 caused you to be this, you know, big, outspoken trailblazer, but you have nothing to say about the absolute disgusting, abhorrent, unthinkable crimes that we're seeing in real time right now. Like, hi, just right now, today, broadcasted on social media, the blatant like, can you, I know I've said this before. Imagine like just the lack of any human decency or dignity. Like imagine that being someone who is close to you, who is a loved one. Imagine being a woman and that's your last sight on this earth and your last experience on this earth, like the sheer horror. So anyway, weird Taylor Swift, weird that you would choose to support Gaza in this time and have nothing to say about the vicious rape of women and acts of terror that's happening before our eyes. That's weird. And so all of that goes to say, like, shame on you. Okay, that goes without saying. But also notice how with woke people, no, anything that fits their radical extreme ideology, like no other facts, and even if it's like horrid facts like this, they just don't mean anything. No, isn't that weird how that works? Like anything to fit, it just doesn't matter, right? Like again, the same people crusading, right? Power to the, smash the patriarchy and, let's put an end to misogyny. Okay, we're seeing this and none of that constitutes, just doesn't matter, didn't happen, or it's justified. Like it's the same sort of logic again as like why biological men in their mind should be competing with biological women in sports. It's like, no, let's forget the fact that biological men are built completely differently from the inside out. Hormones, physicality, bone structure, muscle mass. Nope, none of that counts. It's like nothing needs to ever fit their psychotic narrative. No matter how true, no matter how logical, no matter, like, this proves just how far they're willing to go, or worse, let things go and brush things under the rug and turn a blind eye or distort things to fit their unhinged narrative. So thank you, Taylor Swift, for being part of that. Like, really kudos to you. So the next part here, right, aside from, again, the utter hypocrisy, the double standard, the lunacy of it all, is what constitutes as free speech versus hate speech. So this is where you have people like Dave Portnoy entering the chat. And this is, again, where it gets really dicey, because Dave Portnoy has said, this isn't free speech. This is hate speech. You're creating harm against a group of people. And we've seen it. I don't have to go through it with you guys. We've seen anti-Semitism on the rise like crazy, hate crimes, people being killed. Again, I saw a story of a Jewish kid's dorm room being burned down. Like, it's just absolutely horrific. Swastikas, everywhere. It's just horrible, right? So, Doug Ellen, he's another one. He's the creator of Entourage, and he's chimed in saying, there's free speech and then there's conduct, right? And this is, again, where it gets all really murky, because anybody can make an argument of, well, free speech is free speech, period. In theory, I can say, well, you can say whatever you can say this, you can say that, you can say that. Now, this is where I want to set the record straight about where I land on all of this, because I am such a free speech advocate. And I've always said, fine, you say what you want to say, and our speech will be louder and it will be stronger and it will be more impactful, right? And more powerful and better, right? And it doesn't, solve anything to just like whack-a-mole censor here, there, and everywhere, because it's like a domino effect, like what's next. But don't misconstrue that, folks. Don't misconstrue that where, oh, well, anyone can say whatever they want and it's just a free-for-all and it's a Wild West. Like, don't get it twisted, because I've never said that speech, there are no consequences, period, right? I've never said that. Say you go, like, it's the joke in Meet the Parents, right? Where he's like, well, they're like, you said bomb on an airplane. You can't say bomb on an airplane, right? That idea. If someone's outside of a building going, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to shoot up that whole building and I'm going to bomb that whole building, they're just going to be like, all right, buddy, free speech. Like, that person's probably going to get arrested. So that's where it's like, okay, yes, free speech, but yes, there's hate speech. And at what point you draw a line, again, when it constitutes, and this is like morality and humanity. Again, this is common sense, right? Where do you draw a line? So if someone's actually going to pose a threat and go in and hurt and harm people, again, get your priorities straight. this is different than eating chicken that happens to not be fucking fried that day, right? What constitutes as actual harm. And that's what I really wanted to suss out, right? I never have insinuated, oh, it's just a free for all and whatever, it is what it is. Oh, too bad. Because there are consequences. And that's what we're seeing. It's like with these presidents who are purely moronic and idiotic. Like, can anyone stroll into MIT and Harvard and be the president today? Like, who is the inmates are running the asylum? So that's what I wanted to really kind of like get on the record, if you will. And this is again where it gets really tricky, because these presidents say, well, it's free, we're abiding by our code and here for the spirit of free speech, unless then it crosses the line into conduct. And that's where the congresswoman's like, okay, so are you saying you can just say whatever, it's a free for all, and until we actually see genocide, that's where you draw a line? Like, again, this is where it's all nonsense, where their hypocrisy has been exposed. And this is where, again, like, I'm not going to get into the weeds of what constitutes as speech and action, because that is where, you can parse it out and get yourselves in trouble. And that's what I think the MIT president said this at the time. Like, I got too into the weeds, and it's like, no, bitch, you condemn what is wrong. Wrong is wrong, period. So again, that's where someone can say, well, technically I can say whatever I want. I can say death to this, death to that group, and you can make an argument for that. And again, combat it with the idea that better, stronger, more empathetic, impactful speech always wins. Fine. But like, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. Again, this is the fucking common sense of what's dumb and what's serious and right and wrong. Like, sorry. So another example of this is Rutgers that suspended a group, right? And this is where I could see people coming to me being like, oh, well, Taylor, like this president resigning, or, people wanting the Harvard president to step down, or the student group being, suspended. Like, this is cancel culture, isn't it? Like, I thought you were against silencing and all this and yada, yada. Again, common sense, right? Rutgers suspended Students for Justice in Palestine. Why, you ask? Well, gee, I don't know. Maybe because there was vandalism. There was actual disorderly and violent conduct. Or because they said the actions of the Hamas terrorists on October 7th were justified. So, gee, that's really going to foster a safe environment for all students and Jews on campus. Like, see what I'm saying? There is a line of common sense, and crossing that and, making a joke in a fucking comedy special like Dave Chappelle. Like, seriously, get your heads screwed on straight. This is where, again, it goes into like my last kind of bucket here of actually canceling people, and like, when is it okay and how far does it go? And this is why I feel like this with like the Penn president stepping down again, why is this different from the others, right? Why is this different from the plethora of people that we've seen canceled? Like, what is so different about this besides what I've laid out so far? Here's the thing, I've been, again, and I want to be clear about this too, when it comes to the cancellation and it's so pervasive, and it's just been like a wildfire through everyone and everything, whether it be like entertainment or whether it be people in their goddamn kitchen afraid Alexa is tracking them and recording them and is going to blow their cover one day over their Christmas table, the conversation they're having there. Like, it is everywhere. I've said this a million times, how everybody's walking on eggshells. And what I've been against is the complete and utter silencing, deplatforming of people. Again, reputation smearing. You've had actors lose their reps, you've had people lose their work, lose their entire businesses, right? Again, over in my mind, what are rather minuscule things. And that's where it's like, I've been really strong before about like, don't back down. Even I had Dr. Malone on my show, who was who was one of the architects of the mRNA vaccine technology, right? And he was someone who, was like, who better on this planet to talk about that issue? One of the smartest men in the world, the one on the front line, one of the inventors, right? And he's talking facts and he's talking about his point of view, and he loses his business, is deplatformed, is censored on Twitter, all these things, and is labeled a lunatic conspiracy theorist, right? And so those are the kinds of things that I've been against. Again, like you had Gina Rodriguez singing along to a song and she's reprimanded. The thing about this, again, that makes it so different, and what I've said before, is your moral compass is obviously way off. Like, again, all of these things required swift action and speaking out and statements. And yet something as evil and horrible as this, again, right and wrong, common sense, you can't decide. You would never see this with any other group. With any other group. Imagine if they're testifying and it's like, so-and-so, can you say that it's against your conduct to call for the genocide of X group? Literally any other group, without even hesitating, they'd be like, absolutely not, abhorrent. Like, you can't even call somebody fat today. This isn't another example of like, oh, here's cancel culture at it again. Like, can't say anything. Again, this is like, I think this is actually a little more serious than that, and actually like taking it too far. And where, do you want these people to be running these institutions? Like, does this person, I don't want these people. Again, I've said it before, free speech, fine, say what you have to say. Kanye, this person, the other person, fine. I don't want you working for me. Like, good for Dave Portnoy, because the reason also I forgot to mention he stepped into the chat is because of all this. He basically said, I will not hire a Harvard grad to work for Barstool Sports because this is absolutely abhorrent, right? So again, do I want you working for me? No. Do I want you, representing me in our politics? No, absolutely not. And the fact that we have people like Rashida Tlaib representing us, and like who openly obviously hates Jews, horrifies me, right? So no, I don't want that. And again, this is where it's different of, I've always said before, if somebody, say like Dave Chappelle, right, where people were coming after him for his, what they call transphobic jokes in his, comedy special. And I always said, like, stick by your guns, like, do what you have to do. So don't cave to the mob, don't cave to the nonsense cancel culture, right? So again, you may be thinking, well, what's different than that and these presidents, or Dr. Gay, the president of Harvard? Again, this is good and bad and right and wrong. Like, your moral compass is fucked. Do I want you being a leader to make students, so-called at these universities, right, to have progress, to make them feel safe, to evolve and grow and have all types of thought and learning? That's the thing to me. It's like every organization you ever fucking heard of, even Ashton Kutcher and his own goddamn foundation that he found when he spoke out with his friend Danny Masterson, he steps down from his own organization, like cancels himself. We've seen every rep, organization, this, that, the other person make statements and fire themselves and all this shit and step down and cancel themselves and remove themselves from this project or that movie or this or that or the other thing. And this is what it's so insane to me. It's like, okay, but Harvard, this is the thing that they choose. This is the thing that they choose to stand by. They're like, we unequivocally stand by Dr. Gay to nurture a strong learning environment for the future leaders of America. It's like, again, of all the things, this is the thing that you people choose to stand behind. So it's what I said before, again, of things having consequences. I never would suggest that it's a free-for-all and too bad and, oh, there's no accountability to be had. But again, picking your battles and fucking what makes sense. All these schools are all about allegedly like learning from history, although they cherry pick on both sides, like what to leave out of our history and what to amp up, like convenient how that works. But again, we saw this happen, right, with who other than Hitler. And it's like, you're all little mini Hitlers as far as I'm concerned, because it's like, again, it's crazy. People wonder, how did the Holocaust happen? And it's like, gee, well, we're watching it right now, because you subtly allow it and justify it and enable it. And so you gather the people again, rather than combating it with stronger, just, better speech. And this is what fucking happens. So with all of that being said, here's my conclusion in all of this. When it comes to, let's summarize the fact of the insane double standards and the hypocrisy of what constitutes as being canceled. Again, I guess not this. Free speech versus hate speech. hate speech is technically free speech, right? But again, where you cross the line of where it goes too far and what's right and wrong, and what again could actually lead to physical action, right? And actual violence. And also, canceling. What's canceling? What's silly canceling? What's actually accountability and consequences? And versus standing by, a dumb tweet that you had in 2012, like Elon Musk, who Elon wasn't even in the on the scene yet, and something like this that they choose to stand behind. So priorities. But what all of this shows me, guys, is how they're obviously caught in their lies, because they're in theory all about defending the Constitution, the First Amendment, and free speech. And it's like, you're obviously all caught in your lies. You're a bunch of liars because you cherry pick, you blow it out of proportion for one group, you let it slide for and enable it and cheer it on for another group, can't condemn it for another group. So it's not evenly distributed, your free speech, if you know what I mean. So you're liars. So with all of that, I say, take this opportunity to, instead of what we've seen, and like, you've shown your true colors. We know your pea brains. We know the two little brain cells you have in there, like, playing Ring Around the Rosie and can't figure out what fucking terrorism is, okay? Or genocide for that matter. But take this opportunity, instead of backtracking or covering your tracks, or even like what these people are doing, like standing by it and doubling down. Use this opportunity to cut the bullshit, because you've been caught in your lies. Again, this is the era of the DEI policies, of trigger warnings, of safe spaces, right? Of banning fat phobia, or claiming that a pronoun or a goddamn sandwich constitutes as abuse. I say use this opportunity to blow all of that shit out the window. If you want to be about free speech, then be about it. Get your priorities back in check. And I almost want to say, like, go back to normal. No, not heteronormal. Don't worry. Okay, I'm not rocking your boat that much today. But get back to how it was, versus this selective bullshit and backwards logic, for that matter, right? Get back to how it was, to freedom of debate and thought and books and comedy and saying politically incorrect things, right? And then being able to have the wherewithal to actually punish and cancel, so to speak, things that should be and things that are not okay. So in case you all need a reality check, use this moment and use this opportunity to realize that this is far past the point of any little microaggression or misgendering somebody or a French fry being served in your cafeteria. This is absolutely embarrassing, and it's egregious, and quite frankly, it's disgusting. So you know what? Get your priorities straight. Get back to real freedom of speech, real freedom of expression, real freedom of thought, okay? So you have the actual brains and the wherewithal to right the wrongs, and to allow us to flourish and to grow, and to punish, I don't know, what's actually pretty bad by most people's moral standards. And with that, I say that's on Elle Woods, period. So let's go into the new year with this sentiment. If we want free speech, then let's have it. Not this selective shit, and not this backwards way of thinking. It's right, it's wrong, it's common sense. If you can't agree, cancel me, baby. Here is to freedom. Use it wisely, use it well, use it, use your speech freely. Holy shit, where's the Tylenol? I need a drink. I love you guys. And I will talk to you soon.